Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I'm very sorry to bother you. I hope you don't mind, but I don't usually talk about Blu-ray news or that sort of thing, but something was announced on September 3rd that was really interesting. It came out of the blue. I'd never heard of it before until I actually read this, which is about Francis Ford Coppola and his plans for what is being called here at this time anyway, Mario Puzo's The Godfather, Coda, the Death of Michael Corleone. And apparently, according to this information, and I'll leave a link in the description box below for your perusal, according to this information, this is going to be what purports to be a new version of The Godfather Part III. And according to this, according to Coppola here, he's quoted here as saying, "For this version of the finale, I created a new beginning and ending and rearranged some scenes, shots, and music cues. With these changes and the restored footage and sound, to me, it is a more appropriate conclusion to The Godfather and The Godfather Part II." This is very interesting. Now, we know that Coppola is an artist who has been known to take some of his earlier works and rework them in new versions for new subsequent releases. We've seen a number of his films under that treatment, which I think forms the basis for some really interesting conversations about which versions are more preferable, which scenes are more preferable, etc. And this I think is a part and parcel of the cinematic discussion overall. And so I've been very impressed overall with those efforts in the past. And so with this is very interesting to me. And I wouldn't have made a video about it except that I am a huge fan of the Godfather films. I love the Godfather films, and I've spoken a little bit about the Godfather on this channel, but not to the extent that I would like. I've known the films from way back. My parents were fans of the films. In particular, my father was a really big fan of The Godfather and The Godfather Part II. And when The Godfather Part III came out, and when I saw it, I think that it has certain differences with the earlier films, of course, but I find it to be trying to do different things, and it's very much. It feels like it's like a Shakespeare play. Not to say that Godfather and Godfather 2 weren't in their ways also Shakespeare plays. They were, but I think The Godfather 3 had a certain different kind of spirit. And over the years, I've really grown to appreciate it a lot. It has some really iconic moments, too. You know, Joey, Zaza, and some of those, the cannoli and all, it's just great, and the way that opera is woven into the whole context and the story, it becomes very important, as you know, right? And some of the dialogue is concise yet very effective. You know, our ships must all sail in the right direction, and the like. So. Of course, I appreciate its flaws as well, and it's known, I think, a lot more perhaps for its flaws than its strengths, perhaps. And I think that's a very fair assessment, of course. But wherever you might fall in the spectrum of appreciation with regard to The Godfather 3, I think this is nonetheless very interesting news. Now, this could go, of course, one of two ways. I mean, from my vantage point, where I mean, as I say, I acknowledge that there are some pretty fundamental flaws in the film, but still I really admire where the film went overall. I'm talking about The Godfather 3. So from my vantage point, this new news about what Coppola is doing can go, of course, into a better direction, or maybe a not so good direction. And so I really don't know. I can't say for sure until I actually see this. And according to this news, it looks like there will be plans or efforts to release this theatrically in a limited capacity first, and then later it'll be released in a physical media form. At least that's what it seems to indicate here. So I'm looking forward to the physical media release, of course, if and when it does arrive, and I hope it's very soon indeed, because I'm very, very curious about this. I wonder what the new, he says, created a new beginning and ending. That is very interesting. That is very interesting indeed. You know, also, what does that mean, created? That means he made some new scenes? I'm not sure. Also, he's calling this the Death of Michael Corleone, and, you know, according to past writings, this was Coppola's, this is what he wanted to call the film. But of course, the powers that be at the studio had their way, and it became The Godfather Part III. But I think the idea of it being a coda and the Death of Michael Corleone really helps to, in a sense, recalibrate the whole focus of the films, the cycle of films, and it makes, therefore, The Godfather and The Godfather Part II almost the focal points of the story, and then The Godfather, this new later story with an older Michael Corleone and an older family, and Vincent and Mary, of course. And then this becomes, you know, right now it's Godfather Part III, so the idea of the moniker of Part III makes it its own focal point as well, almost on par with the focal points of Godfather and Godfather Part II, right? So it has an equal weight based on the titling, of course. But with this new titling for this new version, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, this therefore makes it like a coda, an epilogue, something that is a conclusion or a follow-up of the main focal points that came before, Godfather and Godfather Part II. So this is an interesting recalibration in a way, which therefore makes it, I think, gives it some lateral space to be maybe creatively in a different kind of space than, say, Godfather and Godfather Part II. And so I think there can be room to appreciate it on its own terms, if we're not concerned with the fact that it has to sort of, in a way, live up to the expectation of being the same level of focal point that we saw from the other two films. If it's a coda, then it has there's more room for it to breathe on its own, if you know what I mean. And so this is an interesting sense of recalibration. So with this in mind, I'm very curious to see what the final product will be. Again, will it be better or worse than the current Godfather Part III? We'll have to wait and see. And you know, I appreciate the fact that you know, The Godfather 3 has its fans, but it also has a number of people who are maybe not so fond of it. So we'll have to see also how everyone who is a fan or who knows of the Godfather films overall, how people will react to this this final product when it is indeed released. But I'm looking forward to it very much. Yes, so this is very interesting indeed. So if you want to read more about it, I'll leave a link to this news in the description box below. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about The Godfather 3, or let me know what you think about this particular news about the Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, the new reworking, this new proposed version of what we now know and understand to be the story of The Godfather Part 3. So please let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, I'd love to hear what it is you have to say. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much again for your time, my dear friends, and cheers.